really missing in the movie is that there really is, I guess if there's a hole in the entire movie of the screenplay, is that there is not really a scene between the friends or family that they all kind of just focus on the point of, why aren't you guys living together? You love each other, so if you love each other, why, if you love someone, you live with them. That's it, right? You love somebody, you live with them. You marry them. If you don't want to marry him, you get in a relationship. And this movie is about saying, well, we are in a relationship, but we're in two different places. That's it. Like, he's living in LA, I'm living in Chicago. And in a Hollywood thing, it's very difficult to explain how you're ever going to live away from someone like Drew Barrymore. I mean, you look at Drew Barrymore, and you go, I mean, realistically, if this was realistic, no guy's going to, put distance between him and Drew Barrymore, no matter what. He's going to find a way to get out of wherever the hell he is and go, it's Drew Barrymore, man. I mean, I'm going to go wherever the hell. She's going to Alaska, I'm going to live with her, even if it's for like a month. And in this movie, they don't do that. They visit each other, and they text each other, and they do what you got to do. But the great thing about the screenplay is that these two people, they've already done all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, they've already become cynical at an age where they're not even like 40 yet. And, you know what I'm saying? Like, but they're young, and it seems like they've become jaded and cynical. And they're kind of like Rick Blaine from Casablanca. That they've already done all that stuff in their relationships. They've already done the whole, basically everything, proposals, whatever. Like, it's not talked about, but you can tell that they've gone through it all. They've done the relationship thing. They've tried maybe the marriage thing, maybe, and now here they are, that they're not going to do that again. That they're like, you know what, maybe it is better. Yeah, you're moving, I'm moving. I'm not going to. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I love you, but it's like, I've said that word a lot before. And with Garrett, his parents, he's like, my parents divorced, and that really influenced and showed him that, people don't, even your parents can't make it work. How can we? And, people like to go, that's being very pessimistic or being very cynical. But there's a truth there that shows, maybe, distance is supposed to be good. And giving people space. And giving people the time to kind of grow apart. Because, but at the same time, they love each other so much that they want to be together. It's like they just want, the conversations in here are hilarious, and the way that it's like, I'm thinking about you and I can't stop, and that's that kind of young love in them, that when they're together, they're just constantly, displaying their affection around their friends who are kind of jaded and go, like, that's not, like, if you're in a real relationship, you kind of don't do that anymore. Like, in the beginning, it's always lovey-dovey and, sending messages and all the great stuff. But then after, a year or 2 years, you just kind of grow comfortable with one another. That, I guess the best way for me to explain it is, like, right now, if somebody came up to me and said, do you want to go into outer space and land on the moon? I don't have any feelings on that whatsoever. I don't care. It's not something I don't want to do, but I'm like, the moon? Like, I don't care about it. I'm just curious about going to the moon, but I don't really need to get to the moon. Now, someone else somewhere would just think I'm insane. The same thing with thinking about Drew Barrymore, where somebody else will go, oh my god, like, that's Drew Barrymore. Like, what do you mean you're not going to be around her every chance that you can get? And back to the outer space thing, the only way for me that I would go into outer space right now, that I feel, this sounds like a movie premise now, but the only way I would go into outer space is if somebody said, oh, you fell in love with a girl, guess what? She's going into outer space, and she's going to stay up there for the next 2 years. Whoa. You know what I'm saying? So now it's the same thing, that long distance of, she's in outer space, I'm on Earth. How am I going to, now I have to, that's my reason for wanting to go into outer space for the girl. And I feel like that's the same, that's what their relationship is based on, in the sense that if you take away the distance, in a way, creates that conflict that makes people want to be together, that when you take that away, it's just, you wake up every day and you're like, you're not gonna put on the spacesuit. You're not gonna want to go into space. You're not gonna have to need to learn, and the funny whatever situations you're gonna put yourself in, trying to become an astronaut just to go in outer space to see and have sex with the girl. That's not going to happen once she says, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go live with you down on Earth, and she lives with you on Earth, and every day you just wake up and you don't even, you know what I'm saying, like it doesn't, you don't talk about going to space anymore. You don't talk about, that fire of have to go into outer space, the fear of, are we going to crash? Am I going to survive? All that goes away when she's just living, and she's, you wake up to her every day in bed. You're right. That happens with every relationship, your parents, everyone. Like once the conflict ceases, it just becomes, you become bored, and you're looking and kind of crazy and insane in finding little things to fight about that aren't really a big deal, like where you're going to eat tonight, or the fact that you spend too much time wearing a shirt, or that I don't want to, or why don't you do this more, or why don't you do, what I'm saying, like things that now are irrelevant when you have that distance. When that distance is there, it's just, I just need to be around you. I just need to see you. I just want to be around you. When they're together in these scenes, man, they are really, sexually charged and affectionate and just sex crazed. And that kind of, I think that is a main also reason of why why these characters do like the idea of being in a long distance relationship. The idea that, and it comes across in a scene where Erin, she confronts her sister, and she goes, he lives in LA, you live in Chicago. Are you ever guys gonna, is he gonna move here? Are you gonna move there? And what's the point? At least, and she says that there's another character there, a Damon guy, that he is the guy that's around her, and she's like, well, at least he's here. You can do something with him. And she, Erin kind of, it says in the script, she's Erin defiant. She says, he's worth it. Talking about Garrett, that he's worth going through this. It's kind of the same thing, like, she's worth going to the moon and going through all that drama just to get into outer space to see a girl. It's true that it's worth it to take the money out of the bank account and get on the flights and those long flights and being in airports and eating airport food and doing, like, it's worth it. It's that kind of, it's just, it's worth it because, like, once the two of you are together, it's just not going to, the both of them are just not going to want to be, they're just not going to want to go through it. And so just the main reason to talk about, like I said, like if you look at this entire video, look at the aesthetic of this video, look at the way it looks. I'm in a really super colorful room, but I'm not in a colorful mood. I'm talking about a comedy and love, but there's nothing, it's just, there's a seriousness and a bleakness that I'm like, that's kind of what I hope the movie is able to convey and differentiate itself and put itself in that place and go, yeah, funny can be funny and you can have, but it's like, I think that is what people respond to about really great romances and things, that if you don't paint what it's supposed to look like, you paint what it is. And I think that's kind of the reality, because to give a realistic story of what happened to me, this script hit me right after I had sent this girl who I'm like fell completely in love with, like, and I've been in love with for like a year, and just kind of stayed on her MySpace just looking at her. And this April Sunday, the 26th, I had sent her this long message and about love and everything. I don't want to get into it, but it was really embarrassing thing to send, and she ended up like cutting me off completely and like totally blocking me. And just that whole experience from her blocking me to right now is just so, how to convey that in a screenplay, just like the going, seeing is, why didn't she message